a big one.
Yeah, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. What's up, everybody? What is going on? We are back to another episode of Yammy Noob comparing motorcycles that shouldn't be compared. You guys always get so upset when we compare bikes you think are uncomparable, and today we're doing the sacrilegious. We're comparing a 240-pound dual sport to a 600-pound mammoth ADV bike.
Hey, man, it's only 550 without the bags.
What are we doing, dude? What's going on with today's episode?
We're out here having a good time goofing around on these big motorcycles, and I guess we're trying to determine which is the better option between these two motorcycles. Do you want to get yourself the big Battlestar, absolute behemoth top shelf adventure bike, or do you want to get yourself the absolute zoinked out top shelf dual sport that you have there? These are both, I guess, apex predators in their space.
Yes, these are both about as apex predators it gets for the on/off-road segment, but they both take a very different approach when it comes to their specialties and their flaws. So this motorcycle over here is my personal Husqvarna FE501S. It's been featured a few times on the channel. Be sure to stick around. In a couple weeks, there will be a sweet single-track vlog with it as well. I know some of you have been clamoring for content with it, and that over there is the venerable Pan America, right?
Oh, yeah. Harley Davidson lent us this beast for a month, so we were going to be making a lot of content with it. The first thing
we totally haven't dropped it
haven't dropped it yet. Yeah, the first thing we did, the second day we've had this motorcycle, we brought it out here, and you're going to see some clips of me bashing it up real good, and I had to fix it on the side of the road a little bit.
Now, if the scenery looks a little different, that is because we are here in Southern California at the Corral Canyon OHV area. We're also bopping around some Twisties today and trying to get a sense for which bike is better for the on/off-road enthusiast. Both these motorcycles claim they can go on-road and off-road, but which one is going to be better? So today, we're going to run them through a twisty road test, a highway test, and a fire road/trail test and see which one comes out on top and which one does things best. All right, folks, as you see by the timestamp, this is a detailed and deep video, so we're going to start off looking at the specifications of both of these machines. Why don't we start off with the Pan America, Spike?
Let's do it. Alrighty, folks, so I have covered the Pan America and covered it because this is one of my favorite motorcycles out there, so if you want a lot of detail on that, we have a bunch of videos on this motorcycle, but I am going to give you the top-down specs on this bike here. 150 horsepower, 94 foot-pounds of torque, pushed out by a 1252cc V-twin, liquid-cooled, and this bike is big. It is over 500 pounds, closer to 560 with all of the gear that I have strapped to this. With me on top, that means that we are pushing almost 800 pounds worth of crap down the road. It's going to be a bit of a struggle when we get off-road, but on the road, this thing feels amazing. It is super easy to ride. It is a technological wonder with so much adjustability in this. You can go in and program your ride modes, your power modes, all sorts of stuff. You can get your Bluetooth hooked up to your phone. You can control your headset from the dashboard. This thing is, it's a top-shelf ADV bike. It's got everything that you'd expect, and it's got a Harley exclusive feature, I believe. I'm thinking Ducati's trying to snatch it. The ride height device on this, which drops the seat height when it comes to a stop. This is a huge thing for a motorcycle this heavy to actually lower the seat height on you while you're riding and coming to a stop. It makes it a lot more manageable. And I have a feeling it's going to help me when we get off-road. Now, before we hand it over to Yam to talk about the specs on his Husky, I do need to take a second and shout out our sponsor for today's video, Flying Eyes. You guys have seen me wear these sunglasses on the channel before. They are our eyewear of choice. They fit really nice under the helmet. They're basically indestructible, and they have these nice little flexible stems, and you can really beat the crap out of these glasses, and they keep working. So, if you wanted to get yourself a nice pair of sunglasses for your ride, click that link down below and check out Flying Eyes. Now, over to Yam. Let's learn about that Husky.
Alrighty, folks, this is my near and dear to my heart Husqvarna FE501S. This is actually my personal motorcycle. It is not a giveaway bike. It's not a loaner bike. I bought this thing earlier this year, and it's replaced my WR250 and kind of my desert sled as like my everyday do-anything motorcycle. This is a bike that is basically a plated dirt bike. This thing weighs 240 pounds ready to ride, which is ridiculously light. It's powered by a 510cc single, doing like 48 horsepower and more torque than you would ever know what to do with. It power wheelies in third gear to give you an idea of how much torque this thing has. As you can tell, as it is a dirt bike with plates, it has a 21 18-inch setup, big beefy knobby tires that I've put on from Moto Z or Motaz, I don't know how to pronounce that brand's name actually, and you can tell that it's got massive suspension travel, massive ground clearance. If it's not apparent already, this motorcycle is designed to be off-road and on-road if you really, really need to. That's kind of the ethos around this thing. Now, given that it is a super lightweight and small motorcycle, it is so vibrational, so harsh on the road, it will get you down to wherever you need to go, but I would not recommend crushing big highway miles or doing a 3 or 4 hour ride on this thing. You will not be very happy, as you will see in the Twisty Road section. And the other sections today, I call this the Taint Punisher because it is quite brutal on the taint. Now, this motorcycle has no technological features whatsoever. There's no fancy electronic suspension. There's no rider modes. There's no wheelie control. It's all right here, baby. It's an old school analog styled motorcycle. It's a ton of fun to ride, which is why I really enjoy riding it, but it is absolutely zoinked out of its mind. You absolutely probably want to take a bump of cocaine before you ride this thing because it is some serious, serious business. If you ride this back to back to a comparable WR250 or something like that, you're going to walk away thinking that this thing has absolutely railed some Adderall and it's just going to be ready to go on the trails. Now, speaking of which, let's get these motorcycles out. Let's see how they do first on-road, on the twisties, and then go from there. Alrighty, Sprite, here we are. Twisty section on these motorcycles. And I gotta say, one of the first differences I noticed between a really big bike and a really lightweight bike like this is the ability to kind of coast through those big sweepers. When you've got a bike that's got a big planted feel, big engine, you can kind of just fly through big sweeper sections. But the super tight stuff like this, I prefer being on a lighter bike. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean, right now going through these, you know, hairpins that are back to back to back, muscling this thing around is a ton of work.
Yeah, I just accidentally caught up to you really fast without realizing it. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, you know, the bike is so heavy to move side to side that it becomes a lot to manage, and it's a lot to stop too. The brakes are perfectly fine, and I could probably tow on them harder because of all the crazy electronics that I have, but it's also, you know, the threshold at which I'm comfortable braking, you know, because like I said off camera, I watched Kyle Wyman rip this thing around a racetrack, and he could probably outbrake anybody on this machine and do this a lot faster than I am, but I ain't no Kyle Wyman.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, you know, you can make analogies all day long to motorcycles, to four-wheeled vehicles. You know, we were talking about how the Pan Am is kind of like a Ford Raptor and this Husqvarna is kind of like a little side-by-side, but rider skill is so important at the end of the day, man. Like, it's kind of everything, you know, like a confident rider, a good rider, an experienced rider, you know, you'll be able to ride outside of somebody on a Ninja 400 if they're on a leader bike. You know, it doesn't really matter all that much.
Yeah, exactly. And the main thing that I'm noticing is, you know, a average street rider is just how much stopping distance you need to plan on this motorcycle, you know?
Yeah, it's got momentum, man. It's like a train.
You really gotta think about what you're doing, but now that these twisties are loosening up a little bit, and I have more time to move around on the motorcycle and I can get into position, I can let myself open this thing up a bit.
Now, I will say, when you're looking at something like a dual sport versus an ADV, if you're trying to do like the 50-50 life, you got to realize that both motorcycles are compromised, right?
Yes.
This dual sport, I mean, this is the most, as we said in the beginning, Apex Predator dual sport you could buy. It's ridiculously suited up. I have it on these really knobby tires, so in a street application, you really got to know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're going to lose front end grip. You're going to lose rear grip. I'm having to constantly manage the front end. It's on this big rolling 21-inch front end. And I like it because for me as a very experienced rider, it's a bit of a fun challenge to hustle this thing around the street. But I could definitely see this being a little weird and scary for someone who doesn't really know a lot about motorcycling just yet. Whereas I think an adventure bike is very approachable for a street rider.
They're a lot more normal, I would say. The seating position on it, it's very normal. The size of the motorcycle, those little lightweight bikes, they can feel a little odd when you flick them into a corner because the weight just sort of disappears and it feels like you're falling over, you know? That never happens on this motorcycle. The weight never disappears, which I'm sure we're gonna come back to when we get off road, but you know, that can be comforting to somebody when they're learning how to hustle a bike around a twisty.
I'm curious, as we enter this kind of descent here, do you find that the momentum and weight of the Pan Am is working against you a little bit? Like, I feel like really heavy bikes when you're going downhill, the braking distances really need to be managed a little bit.
I actually really enjoy running these bikes downhill, actually, because I like working with the momentum. It's one thing that I've learned on the KLR, because that's a big heavy bike too, and it's really underpowered, so you have to use the momentum on that motorcycle.
Yeah.
Once you understand how to do it and where you're going, yeah, it really works, you know? You just need to be able to ride out the momentum. You know, you got to know exactly what's going on.
When it comes to twisties on these bikes, I think it's really down to rider skill. I think it's really down to rider preference. You just have to ride them very differently. Like, this is so light and flickable and wheelie happy, whereas, you know, the Pan Am is much more of a big burly beast. And yeah, I think it just depends on what kind of riding you really want to do. And if it is truly 50-50, you'll have to understand that there's going to be compromises on both ends. But speaking of 50-50 riding, I think the next thing we need to talk about is the highway potential. I think I'm gonna really hate my life on this next one. All right, folks, it is the dreaded nightmare of all lightweight dual sport riders, but sometimes you gotta do it. We're jumping on the highway now, and I'm not gonna have a fun time doing this. It is not what this bike is designed to do. It is not designed to crush big, long miles. But despite something tells me that Pan Am's gonna be just fine, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're rolling it up through top gear here. Let me get my heated grips going. Let me turn on my cruise control. And now it's game over. I win.
Yeah, there is no doubt that the adventure bike is much better suited for highway crushing. However, there are plenty of people who do huge miles on dual sports. They are also sadomasochists, but they do exist. There's a guy who I believe traveled around the world on an EXC 500. I've heard of many a WR250R, transcontinental riders, even some DR650 apologists as well. I think there's plenty of them, but man, it really sucks. You got to invest in some sheepskin for the seat, maybe a nice seat concept, seat upgrade as well. A windscreen helps too, because this is miserable.
Yeah, I look back and I see you just sitting on that dual sport and I feel bad for you. Meanwhile, I'm just like, you know, I just could steer with my ass.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. How long and how many miles would you feel comfortable doing on the Pan Am on a big stretch like this?
I could probably do 8 hours on this, given the riding that I've done. This bike is ludicrously comfortable.
Yeah.
And I have even taken the anti-vibe pads out from the foot pegs, but the passenger pegs have the same thing, so you just pop them into the rider pegs and then you're good to go. You isolate all the vibration going to your feet, which isn't much on this motorcycle to begin with. I also, when I ride this bike, I set up a custom ride mode that is like the mega comfort suspension but sport throttle control for the highways, and it's super easy to get with.
Yeah, let's see about passing power. Let's go ahead and pass this truck over here. Yeah, there's not a whole lot I can do. I'm fighting so many things on this bike. There's obviously the lack of power compared to your bike. There's the fact that I really don't feel comfortable approaching 80 miles per hour on this knob on the front. Catching tank slappers going straight at 75, so I'm really having to be careful. And then, God, my butt is just, it's hurting. It is hurting. But I will say, compared to, like, I used to have a WR250R, right? I sold that bike, just kind of replaced it. The WR was a lot more comfortable and manageable than this thing. This thing is ridiculous.
Yeah, the more extreme your motorcycle gets, the worse it does, I find, on just general highway riding. And that holds true for a lot of bikes.
Yeah.
You know, that bike is pretty rough. Most sport bikes are pretty rough on the highway. The more zoinked out your bike is, you're sacrificing highway potential.
Definitely.
And I mean, this thing, it's just literally, it's brain dead simple. I could just sit on this motorcycle all day like this.
Yeah, I think for me, the most I would want to do on a highway on this thing, if I had a better seat, would be maybe 2.5 hours, 3 hours, absolutely tops. The current way this is set up right now, I'd maybe an hour. I can't stomach much more than that. As many people know, I am not as generously sized as you are. I'm much more skin and bones. So this is, I mean, this seat is literally on my perineum. It's literally on my bone. I'm struggling, but it's all going to be worth it, because we are on the reason we're on this highway is because we're going to go out and smash up some off-road. That's what we're doing here, and that's fun stuff. So that's definitely a point in the Pan Am's favor. The dual sport over here is objectively awful on the highway. I think on the Twisties they were evenly matched depending on the riding that you're expecting to do, and I think we will find that when the dirt appears, that this motorcycle will conquer all.
Who knows? I've got some good heat energy going on this motorcycle today, so
yeah, because
we'll
it's
see.
a loaner. You don't care if you crash it. All right, folks, this is what it's all about. This is why we trundled down the old freeway, because we are now here on this beautiful vista. Beautiful trails here. We're kind of on this sort of unimproved forest road type of thing, and there's actually a really sweet motorcycle trail out that way, but somebody decided to bring a 600-pound bike. So we can't go have fun. Not without maybe calling a helicopter to pick it up out of there.
Yeah, it'd suck to call up Harley and be like, yeah, your bike is like here.
You just give them coordinates and you're like, send the chopper. So we are on this kind of little unimproved forest road. Spite has already had one small tip over on the Pan Am. We have to point that out, I will say, because we are comparing and contrasting the two bikes.
Yep.
And you know, you're a big adventure bike guy. You know, you like bigger adventure bikes.
That I do.
How are you feeling on this chunkier kind of stuff we got here?
So the biggest thing that I'm noticing is currently I'm scraping hard parts over some of the obstacles in the road, which that'll happen. And the biggest thing is the front tire just is really wide, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't cut through stuff.
It doesn't cut through stuff, and it doesn't roll over stuff nearly as well.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a bummer. You want me to lead out, or you want to follow?
I think I'll lead out.
Okay.
Or, yeah, I'll lead out, because you have to run a little bit slower on that bike because of the momentum and all that. Whereas I, on the Husky here, I can just have a ton of fun. If y'all are looking to get an adventure bike or dual sport to like start riding off-road, I cannot recommend highly enough that you get a dual sport or something lightweight, because the big bikes are really unforgiving in more challenging environments. Wouldn't you agree, Spite?
Yeah, for sure. I would not recommend getting a full-size adventure bike unless you are 100% sure you know what you're signing up for, because this is a lot of work, guys. A lot of work running this bike, and I'm okay doing it because I can pick this thing up by myself, you know?
Yep.
It's not hard for me to pick this bike up
if it's laying flat. It does help that it's got the bags and stuff, but if it were on any kind of incline,
oh man,
bending the wrong way, it would be real tough.
Yeah, I can imagine dropping that bike on a slight downhill and you're just screwed, basically.
Yeah, you need to like bust out, you know, come along and all sorts of other stuff and try to rescue this thing, and it's not an easy thing to rescue.
You know, it's interesting too. I think a lot of people look at roads like this and they're like, oh, they're so wide, they're so easy, go find something more narrow. But weirdly enough, I think some of these like little Jeep trails and stuff tend to be kind of tricky in certain ways. You know what I mean?
Because the Jeeps rip them to shreds.
Yeah, like some of these ruts and stuff are a little tricky to navigate. And honestly, an adventure bike, yeah, it kind of has a tricky time getting through this stuff. I mean, you know, you were saying earlier how you're having to do a lot of work. I am like not even trying. I feel like I'm literally just bopping around for a nice little ride. I'm like, it's almost unfair how easy it is on this bike.
Yeah, I have to do a lot of thinking. I'm looking where you're going, not where I'm going. And planning ahead.
Maybe you shouldn't look where I'm going, because I'm not thinking about where I'm going at all. I'm just rolling over stuff.
That's fair. Yeah, like through here, that I would like to take a tighter line there, but nope, I ain't going through that.
Yeah. Yeah, the big ADVs, you got to think so much, you got to plan. And I'm sure everyone who's ridden a big ADV has been to that point where, you know, you're about to do like a tricky descent or a tricky hill climb, and you like park the bike, you scout out the whole thing first, and then you pick a line, and then you do it, you know?
Yeah, it's a whole thing. You got to triangulate your route and do the math and engage the pre-flight sequence and make sure the electronics are in place, and then you go.
Yeah, whereas on the dual sports, I literally am just like, I'll probably make it up whatever I point this at, so let's just go.
Oh man, these ruts right here, this is not fun right here. This is not fun.
I stay to the left, and I'm gonna go right over here.
Yeah, I do not like these ruts here. This is tough.
Yeah, that's really tricky on an ADV bike.
Because if you screw that up, you're down, and you're in a real bad spot to try and lift it out.
Yeah. Luckily, you got a buddy today, so you can. Yeah. I think whatever the Pan Am gets stuck in, we'll be able to get it out. But yeah, you wouldn't want to do this alone. That's for sure.
But the nice thing is, I don't remember the last time I've actually been on the throttle, because I can just ride the momentum.
Yeah.
But if you overbrake and you don't have momentum to go through this stuff, you're screwed.
Yep.
There's so many times when you're riding an adventure bike where if you make a mistake 50 yards ago, you're gonna pay for it, you know? You know, another thing that you really need to be doing if you're gonna take a big bike like this off-road is you need to be wearing the right gear.
Totally.
Because this thing will mess you up if you go down wrong.
Yeah, I think, I don't remember what video was talking about it, but there was a channel talking about how when you crash on an adventure bike, the best thing to do is just like jump away and off of it. You never want to try to save it, because it could literally snap your leg.
Yeah, you just got to let it go. But hey, I'm in off-road pro mode, so that's fun.
Yeah, you're being a pro right now, dude.
This is definitely a tortoise and hare situation for me on the Pan Am. It's just like slow and steady wins the race here.
For sure. It's because if you make a mistake, it'll go down so fast, whereas like the Husky's so forgiving for mistakes.
Yeah, you can dab that bike super easily.
Whoa, okay. Heck yeah, alright.
Huh. Let me think this through. Alright, I go down, I switch right, and go from there. Ugh. Okay. Switch right. Alright, that's not bad.
Whoa. Alright, I'm gonna pause there, because...
Okay. Alright, stop, bike, stop.
That's
Slow down.
Interesting.
Okay. Whew. Wow, that's going to be interesting.
Alrighty guys, this is Future Spite interrupting the video real quick. I just wanted to say this so I could save face, and you're looking at some footage of it now, but the Pan America had some issues while we were out on trail. Turns out that the clutch was completely shot from the last person who was riding it, and so that's part of the reason why I was struggling so hard. I know you guys are writing the comments saying, wow, Spite really sucks off-road, but just give me a little bit of credit. I'm okay at riding the big bikes off-road. I'm not fast or anything, but it really didn't help this video that I was showing the Pan Am with a clutch that was really spent. I actually couldn't get the bike over 6 miles an hour when we got down from this hill. So just a little note. Now you guys can go back to the video. Let me think. Left, cross right, stay right, go left. I think. Yeah. All right. Go right.
There's somewhat of a tricky drop-off coming up.
Then left cuts right to back left. Come on. And to the right.
Stay to your right coming up. There's a really nasty little drop-off coming.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I gotta walk that one.
All right.
Yeah, I think this is where I have to tap out. Man's got to know his limits here.
For sure. For sure.
Because the stuff we were coming down was like, this is no.
And it's interesting because this is what I was talking to you about before, where like some like actual like small single track trails are easier than stuff like this, because the trail that is up over there, the Spur Meadow one, doesn't have any of this shit on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. This is Jeep track stuff.
It's Jeep track stuff, yeah, for sure. All right, well, let me flip around and I'll come meet you up there.
Yeah, I got to figure out how to flip this freaking barge around. That's another downside for the ADV. Turning it around on a trail like this is quite difficult.
Whereas the Husky, I should be able to just...
Yeah, I'm watching you just kickstand turn it, and I'm like, man, that's not fair.
There we go, little baby.
Oh, shit.
Whoops.
This is where you have to sit and contemplate what you've done.
Do you need assistance? I can ride up and then help you out. Is that downhill, or I can't tell from here?
I should be able to get it. Just
Okay.
Give me a sec. I need something to grab onto.
Yep, there you go.
Strong boy.
Strong. He's strong. I'll go ahead and billy goat back up there. One sec.
Oops.
Ah, that was a big one.
Yeah, you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah, no, that was a big boy. You went down hard there.
This hill has conquered both of us.
I just saw so much sand spill out of your handguards.
Yeah, that was a big one. Yeah. Yeah, so what have we learned?
ADV bikes are heavy, man.
ADV bikes are heavy, bro. If y'all think you're gonna buy one and go out and ride trails like they do in the promo materials, you are sorely mistaken.
Oh, that was tough.
Yeah. All right, folks, we've done an honest-to-God dual sport ride today. We went highways, twisty pavements, fire roads, trails. I even chucked this thing down some single track. We both been these bikes off-road. We've had a hell of a day.
Oh, yeah.
Despite, for the person who's looking to ride on-road and off-road, what have we learned today?
The thing that I learned is that you need to accept compromise somewhere if you want to go to one of these extremes.
Yes.
I would argue that both of these motorcycles are an extreme for what we were doing. This thing, you're suffering on the highway. Like
So
it's
much.
it's not even just like it's not fun. You're suffering out
I'm
there.
fighting tank slappers. I'm having to draft behind the Pan Am. My taint's being punished over and over again, and not in a fun, sexy way either. Just like a hard way, Like, that's not fun.
Yeah, and this thing, you get it out on a complicated technical trail. If you don't get it right,
Oh, you're so screwed.
you're screwed. You have to focus so hard on a motorcycle like this.
Yep.
And that's to some people like that. They're like taking the wrong tool for the job, and they're like, yeah, that was fun. I succeeded. I conquered. But that's not for everybody. And
Yeah.
there were definitely points today where I was looking at you on that Husky when we were off-road, and I was like, God damn it, I wish my bike was lighter.
It's funny because I had the same feeling when we were on the highway. I was like, God damn it, I wish my bike was more comfortable,
Yeah.
So it's interesting that we both had these feelings today of like wishing what the other person had at some point,
Yeah.
So you're always going to have compromise, Some would say that maybe a bike like a Tenere 700 is kind of a middle ground between these two, and I could see that, but I still think that you need to be a pretty damn good rider to hustle a 450-pound motorcycle down some of these trails.
Yeah, the stuff that we were doing today, it would have been tough on any adventure bike.
Totally.
Even, like my KLR would have been tough.
Yep.
The Tenere would have been tough. I can't honestly think of an adventure bike that would have succeeded out there, that would have been at home.
No.
Maybe if you were able to like get a really good spec on a like a Versys 300, one of those Versys X300s. 'Cause
Maybe.
it's really light.
It's light, yeah.
But other than that, I cannot think of a single thing, and even those kind of suck on the highway.
They do, yeah. I think the big thing what we're looking at today is its weight, right?
Yes.
It comes down to weight, and it blows my mind that two of these put together does not equal one of those.
No.
Two of these bikes, that bike is still heavier. And we had that moment where you had to kind of turn that bike around on that tricky trail, and both you and I are both huffing and puffing and having to move it around, and it stops being fun. It stops being fun.
There's a point at which your trail goes from nice, fun, flowy fire roads to something technical. And as much of a fan as I am of this motorcycle, because I adore it, and I've taken it on a ton of fire roads, when it gets technical, this is not the motorcycle. And it's not because it's the Pan Am. It's because it's a top-shelf ADV bike.
Yep.
They're all going to struggle out there. It's not what they're built for.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever you guys see in the promo materials, remember, if you're looking at getting an on or off-road bike, if you're seeing the promo materials of some guy boosting a Pan Am in the desert and doing all this stuff, those are professional riders.
Yes.
You are not a professional rider, and you should probably just get a CRF 300L. You'll have a much better time. And that's what I come back to this thing. When I jump on it off-road, it's ridiculously flattering. Every time I'm in a situation on this bike where I don't want to be, I know it was my fault. I'm like, this bike will go through anything. If I'm upside down or something happened, I didn't ride it correctly, it must have been me, which is a nice feeling to have. And, this bike was almost wheels up on that little rut, and I was able to get it out of there by myself and kind of muscle it up through that other little rut and was able to maneuver it out of there. Whereas if it was the Pan Am where I was, we would have had to call in a helicopter.
Yeah, honestly, because that thing was upside down.
Yeah.
If this is upside down,
It's over.
You need to unpack your tent and pitch it on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And call for help, because this. If I was out here by myself today, I don't know if I would have been able to get this out.
Yep.
I probably would have eventually, after like an hour worth of trying and dropping it a couple of times.
Yeah.
But I would be so tired.
You'd be so spent. And then that's going to inform how you get out of the trail and your energy levels later on and stuff. So, yeah, I think if you're looking to ride on and off-road, choose your weapon carefully. Think
Yes.
about where you're going on the trails. Think about how difficult the trails are you're going to be on. Bring a buddy. Don't go alone. That's always really important. Pack some water, pack some snacks, all that good stuff. And think about where your ambitions truly lie. If you are trying to conquer Trans-America type of riding and you just want to kind of get to a campground or a fire road somewhere, that's the bike you want for sure.
Perfect choice.
Perfect choice. If you want to get serious about riding off-road and you want no compromises, this is a fantastic choice. You just have to put up with the fact that it's so uncomfortable on the road. More so than any sport bike I've ever ridden. This is the most uncomfortable bike I've ever ridden on road, ever.
It's because it's not designed.
It's not designed to do that.
It doesn't care about the fleshy meat sack that rides it.
Nope.
You know, this thing pampers you in a lap of luxury with adjustable windscreens and adjustable everything and a lowerable seat and all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah.
That thing's just like, no, if you're uncomfortable, that's because you're not riding hard enough.
Exactly, yeah. Now, here's the question. Both you and I rode these bikes all day today. Did you have fun?
I had a great time.
Me too. And that's the thing about them, guys. Whatever motorcycle you're on, take them out to places, have some fun with them, see what they're all about, because you will have fun with them. We hope you've enjoyed this video. Thanks again for Flying Eyes for supporting this episode, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. And also, thanks again to Harley Davidson for lending that to us for a whole month.
Yeah.
Plenty more content for that.
Dude, I'm going to be riding this thing all the way back to Austin
Yep.
from San Diego, so.
You guys stick around and check out that video. That's going to be a great little road trip episode we're going to put together, and we'll catch you in the next one. See you later. Keep watching Amy Noob!